Good morning. Thank you for joining us here at the Canico Agency. Good morning, Danny Albertis.
Good morning, Kirsten Stevens.
Happy to have you with us today.
Thank you.
We have a really exciting topic we want to talk about, and then a few updates on the work we've been doing, both from a philanthropy perspective at our company and then some of the things we're working on, big projects that we have coming up. But today we have Danny Albertis with us, and we're going to talk a little bit about some bigger themes as we look at the philanthropy sector. So one of the first things we want to jump into is to talk a little bit about the difference between charity and philanthropy.
Right.
So I think we all have misconceptions about that, and I like clarity.
Sure.
And you and I talk about this a lot, but we really felt it was an important topic to bring out for everybody to understand. So why don't you jump right into that topic for us and just give us a little
thanks.
background?
I think the best way to look at it is the common definition is charity is normally considered short-term, imminent, on the spot. Think of, giving money to a homeless person, sometimes church tithing. I would say donating food or clothes to the Salvation Army or a food bank would be considered charitable. Whereas philanthropy is really more defined as more systematic, data-driven, large-scale, concerted efforts at getting to the root problem in certain ways. So, today we are, acknowledging the 6-month anniversary of Hurricane Dorian devastating the Bahamas. That's a kind of a good example to start off by saying maybe in the first couple of weeks with all the food donated, the funds that were sent through GoFundMe or PayPal or things like that is really charity. So, get roofs over people's houses, try to take care of them,
Yes.
Make sure they're comfortable. And in the last couple of months, we've really now shifted into this recovery phase. And so that's more philanthropy and philanthropic structures and being strategic about that. So that's a good way of looking at it.
So are you saying then also that if we look at philanthropy, we're looking at building out an ecosystem that's a little more comprehensive and more inclusive as opposed to staying very grassroots? And what could that look like? Like, who could be the players in a bigger initiative that really would be more of a philanthropic effort?
Yeah, so I would say, nationally, we would look at philanthropy from a private foundation, so the Gates, the Rockefellers, the Kresge, some of the larger organizations, and the way they've tackled their endowment, their corpus, the funds they have, and hired amazing staff, people, very, very bright individuals to actually look at the problems, do the research, analyze, and then come up with, long-term solutions to address that, almost like an investment, right? No different than they would look at a venture capital, a Wall Street investment. It's really smart in how they look at it. And so what you're seeing is a very high-level approach to systematic problems.
Yes.
And at the same time trying to incorporate government efforts into it, traditional government grants, and trying to actually make, deeper traction into some of these problems that they have.
You and I have talked a little bit about Dogwood Trust and that entity which was recently formed in North Carolina. Why don't you tell us a little bit about because you're fascinated with their model and what their new executive director or CEO is doing. So tell us a little bit about that in terms of how that applies to this whole concept that we're talking about.
So they're an interesting new organization. They were created by the sale of a hospital about 18 months ago. They ended up with about $1.5 billion in a new endowment. And what they ended up doing, they're actually the largest foundation in terms of assets per capita. They have 950,000 or so people in Western North Carolina for $1.5 billion, which is a lot of money. And even with that kind of money, they realized it's not enough for them to do what they do. And so Anthony Chang, who's their CEO, came from Empire Health Foundation out in Washington and did an amazing job in what he calls Philanthropy 3.0. Which is really this concept of leveraging philanthropy, right? And so leverage philanthropy is this new kind of ideology that's come out in the sector, which is, I may know my community, I may know what's happening here, I may know the players, I know who to fund, but even with $1.5 billion, it's not enough money. So how do I leverage that, right? So they initially started by launching what they call the leverage fund, which was a great common idea where they said, look, we're going to take us a bit to figure out what we do and how we do this long term, but in the meantime, what we're willing to do is we're willing to help underwrite the cost of consultants, grant writers, experts to connect you, Mr. or Mrs. Nonprofit in Western North Carolina, with a key federal large foundation grant, individual donor that has a request. We will pay for that to help bring outside dollars into the community.
Incredible idea, incredible model.
Right, and that's apparently what he had done out in Empire. You know, they had a smaller amount of money, but we're doing about $60-70 million a year in impact, which is for his, you know, area. What he was doing was just fabulous work. Yeah.
And then also you've talked a little bit about how he was able to get other foundations and investors excited about the idea about taking on these initiatives, and really everybody doing a deep dive and kind of buying into this concept of, you know, philanthropy 3.0.
Right. So I work with a lot of foundations. You know, I consult. I travel a lot to a lot of the national conferences. Have a lot of friends in executive levels, and we have these deep conversations. And regardless of you having $100 million, $500 million, or $1 billion, it's never going to be enough. Right. I mean, these are systematic, deep-rooted problems, generational issues that it really takes a community to solve. I'm a big proponent of including, you know, government from an advocacy perspective, of understanding how rules and regulations can affect situations. I am a big promoter of corporations taking responsibility. You know, I know most of the large corporations do have corporate social responsibility plans, but, you know, our own research will show that, you know, most small to medium-sized companies don't.
They don't.
And being the largest employers and creators of jobs in the country, you start realizing that, you know, one, they have an opportunity, and two, maybe perhaps a responsibility to play an active role in their communities. And unfortunately, as we've seen, you know, it's hard running a business. You know, you got a million things, a million fires to put out.
I know.
And exactly. And you want to be philanthropic, you know, and you want to do good things, but you know, at a certain level, you're pulling from somewhere else, right?
That's
you're pulling from some need.
That's right.
To do that.
You
know, the large companies has staff and people and foundations, and they have the team there.
Right.
But we've seen a lot where small companies want to do it. Their employees are asking for it. But they don't have the time or the manpower to do it.
Okay. Right. So I'm all about action, as you know.
Sure.
So what would be the takeaway? Like, how can we encourage, how do we even get our minds around this? I mean, is this a conversation that we need to be having?
I think it's all about awareness, you know. I think it's always about removing the veil of ignorance and then coming to a place of saying, now that I'm
removing
aware,
the veil of ignorance.
Oh
my gosh, write that down. I love it. Removing the veil of ignorance.
No, it's so
true.
I tell my children all the time, you know, if you don't know what's happening in the world, then you may not have to react. Okay, you didn't know, but once you know, you've got to make a choice.
You have a responsibility.
You have a responsibility.
Now you know. Exactly.
You know, and if you can't take action, you know, you can at least talk about it.
Sure.
You know, I'm a big fan of that. I mean, I'll talk to people about challenges that I see and try to bring collaboration and other people's efforts to make systematic change.
Which brings me to a really good point. So let's say that I am a medium-sized company and I'm feeling that I really need to pursue maybe some more initiatives that are going to help us adopt a culture of philanthropy in my company. And I'm getting, you know, my employees are asking about it. When we're doing interviews, they're asking about it. I know people care about their workplace. So how can they access that information? Are you able to come in and talk to people? Or what does that look like in terms of actually some steps that they could be taking?
So what's interesting, for a little backdrop, you know, recent studies are showing that about 65-70% of college graduates going into the workforce right now, the millennial, the Gen Z generation, going into the workforce is actually demanding that their employers, the companies they're working with, are playing an active role. They just don't want to work for a purely capitalist firm that's polluting the environment and not gender neutral, and, you know, having all these issues and not playing a role in philanthropy. And so if you're a small and medium-sized business, you're actually losing out on some really top quality talent by not offering some of these programs. So it really starts with a conversation, right? It's almost a business case now. It's no longer a, do I want to do good because I want to do good? It's now, am I being left out? Am I not competitive?
That's a great way to put it.
Am I risking my business? Because of it.
Am I leaving opportunities on the table? Resources, talent.
It's no longer I try to feel good now. Now it's am I positioning myself in a weak position by not offering this?
So this leads me to just mentioning really quickly, and I know you've probably seen some of the posts that we've been doing, but we are becoming B Corp certified here at the Canico Agency. The perfect example of putting purpose above profit and really looking at creating a culture that is all about philanthropy and from a much bigger perspective, right? So if you have any questions about or thoughts on B Corp, or you've never heard of it before, I urge you to look it up, do a little research, and you may already fit that model, because actually as we started to explore the B Corp certification through the Social Impact Lab and the Student Consultancy Group at Lynn, we realized that Canico, this company that you know, hosts this series and does a lot of work in the community with nonprofits and corporations and foundations, already fits the model of the B Corp. So there's very little that we actually have to do to tweak that to become certified, which is fantastic. And there may be other companies that also already fit the model.
Right.
Or if not, you can make it aspirational, right? We can say, okay, well, let's look at this certification process. Maybe it's not something for my company to pursue, but wow, wouldn't that be a great goal, great vision for us for the future to set our sights on B Corp certification. So just a little aside on that.
And I think the beauty of that, so there's this whole movement, came out of kind of Whole Foods and how they were built on conscious capitalism, right? So I'm a capitalist, I'm an entrepreneur, I was a corporate banker for many years, and studies will show capitalism has taken more people out of poverty than any other political mindset there has been in the world. And that's fine, but conscious capitalism just includes the inclusion of the heart, let's say, into that, using capital for good and using the resources that we have to make the world a better place. And so when B Corp came out as kind of a test of how conscious is your capitalism coming out, and it's a rating system and you get points for certain things, I think every company, I actually challenge every company to go out there, every CEO, every entrepreneur, go online, look up B Corp, Google it, take the test. It's not too complex.
No.
But get an idea where you stand, who your vendors are, what your employee policies are. You'd be surprised. And maybe you don't have to go for the whole B Corp.
Right.
But again, remove the veil of ignorance as to where you are.
Back to that awesome phrase. I love it. Yeah, and I tell you, for us, it's been an eye-opener, and there are things that are so easy to implement that fit right in with the B Corp certification that actually make us better stewards of the environment, better stewards of our employees and our teams. Right. I mean, there's so many things that we can all be doing that they're actually not that difficult and may not cost that much money, because there are some things that might cost a little bit of money, maybe benefits for your team and things like that. But I agree with you. I think everyone should take it, see where they are. Right. The interesting thing too is that as I'm learning going through this process is a lot of B Corp certified organizations are asking their vendors to go through the process because they want to do business with other businesses that are well aligned with their culture and their mission. So it's really interesting.
And I'm telling you, the pressure's coming internally from employees and then clients.
Yes, absolutely.
The consumer, if you have a consumer B2B facing business, the consumer's going to request, what are you doing? Are you conscious? What are you sustainable? Are your products causing harm?
Exactly.
And they're very smart shoppers now.
No, it's fascinating. The whole thing is fascinating.
Completely.
So anyway, so we urge you to look that up, and then hopefully we can post the link to the B Corp site.
Yeah.
I think it's called B Lab, and they have the impact assessment in there. It is a little lengthy, so give yourself about an hour to go through it, or you can just skim it and just kind of see where it is. And then we also have the B Corp book, which I don't have handy, but there is a book that's sort of a handbook that you could read that's fascinating as well. So lots to talk about on that.
Absolutely.
And this is a great start.
Yep.
Can you give us maybe one or two takeaways that you urge people kind of to summarize? I always like to do a 2 or 3 takeaways, 1 or 2 takeaways.
Yeah.
But give us like some steps that people could take.
I think the first one is if you're in the corporate world or the business world, take the B Corp test, look it up.
Okay.
If you're a consumer, look where you're shopping, look where you're spending your money. Are they conscious? Are they a conscious capitalist organization?
Examples: Ben & Jerry's, Athleta, Whole Foods, Garden of Life.
Tom
Dannon
Shoes,
has a couple of affiliates that are B Corp.
Things like that. I really believe that as consumers, once we start reshaping where our dollar is spent and the power of our dollar, the old, the customer is always right mentality, it goes a long way. And I really believe, if you're not a philanthropist, if you're not a corporation, if you're just watching us and saying, what can I do? Shop smarter. Shop. Just go out there and do that. I'd also say it's about education and awareness. And so the more you learn, the more you know, the more you can advocate. So it's not about how much money you can put into this.
That's true.
It's how much heart you can put into this.
You're right.
Right? Everyone can have a conversation. Everyone can have a cup of coffee with a friend and just say, hey, I just heard about this. Did you know these people were doing this? And that goes a long way.
Yeah.
Right? So to me, it's always the more you know, the more you can do about it, and the more impact you can create in life.
I completely agree. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that. We're so grateful that you join us for these Ask the Expert series. Today's expert was Danny Albertis. He's the Managing Director of Strategic Philanthropy here at the Canico Agency. Has a wealth of knowledge and information. If you ever want to just have a phone call with Danny, he would love it.
Coffee.
You can buy him coffee. But yeah, and you touched on the 6-month anniversary of Dorian hitting the Bahamas. So I just want to mention we will be at the press conference today at Food for the Poor. And then we are also attending the press conference in Nassau at the University of the Bahamas on Sunday. We'll be reconnecting with some of the people that we've worked with along the way on the Bahamas Strong efforts. And we are really doing a last big push in Marsh Harbor to put roofs on homes for people there. So if you have any interest, please follow us on social media at bahamastrong.org or give us a call here at the Canico Agency. We're still looking for some donations to help provide labor, housing, transportation, and security for some of the big projects. We have big donors that are giving us supplies or they're donating in-kind supplies for roofing materials.
And I would say big corporate donors, not individuals.
These are donors,
big
that's right.
Roofing companies in South Florida, fantastic, clients that we're working with and came to us saying, look, I have roofing material, I have experience. How do I help?
Exactly.
We actually flew out with them, showed them firsthand what the need was. Did an assessment with them, advised them, analyzed it, and kind of crafted a plan to say, here's how you can help and get the word out. And now we have, a great corporate responsible conscious capitalist company here in South Florida that's partnering with us on putting roofs in Marsh Harbor. So it starts with that, a conversation.
I know.
And now
it is a conversation.
And now we're doing all this. So
excellent. So keep an eye out for our work there and any requests, any asks that we may have. Please follow along, see what the need is and how things are going. And then also just want to remind you as well, don't forget to subscribe to our Global Good YouTube channel. So a lot of our recordings and videos and resources and information, we'll be recording webinars. All of that's going to be posted on our Global Good YouTube channel.
Because we do good around the world.
Yes, we do.
Kirsten, absolutely.
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah. Guatemala, the Bahamas, you name it. We're trying to help. And then also we have a community forum that we would love for you to join. It's on Facebook. Any questions you have, any resources you need, you just want to run something by us or someone it's a great peer community as well. So you have other people that have tried different softwares, they've tried different things. Everybody's jumping in.
Goes back to education, right?
It's education.
Share. If you know something, go on the forum.
Share
it. If you don't know it, ask the question. We have really bright people on it.
And it's interesting because we don't claim to be the experts and know everything, but when we go on there and somebody will say, well, do you have a template for this type of thing? Other people are sharing resources too, which we all benefit from. So
or advice.
It's excellent.
What do I do in this situation?
Or advice. Absolutely. So don't forget to sign up for our community forum, link in the description. And then the other thing is we have a very big and super exciting announcement coming out this week. You must join the forum in order to be eligible for this, but it is an incredible opportunity. And just to give you a little teaser, it is all about capacity building. And we're looking at ways that we can really support the sector, and you don't want to miss this information. So this all ties back to the Canico Agency as a B Corp certified entity and looking at ways that we can really help strengthen the sector, the nonprofit sector, strategic philanthropy from an overall perspective. So please keep an eye out for that amazing announcement and then reach out to us if you ever have any questions or concerns. You can find us on Facebook, go to our website, canico.com, or just give us a call here at the office. So, Danny Albertis, thank you again so much for joining us this morning.
Bye, everybody.
Looking at the time, we got to run. We've got a press conference to go to. So, thank you so much, and thank you for joining us.
Happy
for
Friday.
Ask the Expert.